Well, it's here. Time magazine's list of the 100 most influential people in the world. I always check it. I get so excited. I'm always looking to see if an Episcopalian made the list. Not this year. I still remember, however, about 10 years ago, reading the Heroes section in that same issue of Time magazine. And in that issue, they talked about the animal rights activist, the professor of agriculture, whose name is Temple Grandin. Now, around that time, HBO made a movie about her life with Claire Danes in the lead. Temple Grandin, if you don't know, did landmark work on behalf of cattle. That's right, cattle. The same cattle in the American farming industry that winds up in our freezers, at our butchers, and on our plates. Now, yes, I understand I am a former city boy now living in essentially farm country. But full disclosure, I am an omnivore. I will never give up steak and beef. Temple Grandin was responsible for something called a center rack conveying system. A center rack conveyor system for herding cattle who were to be killed for making beef. Early in her farming work, she made a connection with the cows on a farm and was alarmed when she intuited that the cattle were aware of their fate and were terrified and suffering. Seeking not to abolish the killing of animals for food, Grandin instead developed this conveyor system that would walk the cattle through shallow labyrinths instead of large open pens. Her intuition told her that the cattle would follow one by one on this conveyor system and therefore be less stressed, less afraid, and more at peace, perhaps, with their role in the world's food chain. In her words, nature can be cruel. We don't have to be. Temple Grandin gained this intuition because she was autistic. She was mistakenly diagnosed in the 1950s at age 2 as having brain damage. To cope with her sensitivity to noise and chaos in her own world as a child and into adulthood, when her brain craved rigidity and structure, Temple placed herself in a house-made contraption that would close in on her head, create a box around her head, and made her feel safe and less stressed. It was when she applied that rationale to farm animals that she realized she could relate to their plight in a way that non-autistic persons could not. She could see the world as something akin to a good shepherd. And she could find a way to lead animals to a more humane and peaceful existence. Now, this Sunday, in case you didn't get the telegraph, this Sunday is affectionately known as Good Shepherd Sunday in the church. And the lessons today, as they do every fourth Sunday of Easter, point us towards that great metaphor of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. Why good? Because a bad shepherd exploits the sheep. A good shepherd leads the flock. It can at times seem like a painfully obvious metaphor, but it is a lasting one, and it endures even as you explore all of its intricacies. So, I want to have a little fun with it, and I'm going to read you these facts from the Canadian Agricultural Society. And I think, like me, you will quickly find that we're not so much talking about sheep, but all creatures, including humans. Sheep are social animals. They don't like to be left alone. Sheep have good memories. These memories need to be positive ones as much as possible. Sheep avoid loud noises. Sheep are creatures of habit and love routine. Sheep, like the cattle in Temple Grandin's case, move best when not afraid. Sheep will move to other sheep. Sheep, by nature, are followers. You mustn't push them, but instead lead them. So it is helpful to coddle our own selves a little bit by comparing us to sheep and cattle. That's fine. But maybe not always. And on this day, in the shadow of Psalm 23, as well as John's Gospel, we are meant to find a space or a place where we can feel safe and secure. The difference between the kind of flocks that graze in fields or on farms, or those that hurtle through the Temple Grandin conveyor system, is that in Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we are safe. We don't just feel safe, we are safe. Another issue with sheep, as well as cattle and other animals, and yes, humans, is put pointedly by Nancy Blakely, a writer, who says, sheep feel secure just to hear the voice of the shepherd. That same voice that commanded Lazarus to rise, the same voice that cried out, "Father, forgive them," from the cross, that same voice is on this day reminding us that that voice is known by the sheep. And if you are wondering if all the talk about Temple Grandin, shepherding conveyor systems, sensory-safe conditions is meant as a plug for our special needs worship service next week, you would be absolutely correct. But it is also an example of listening to the community, just like that service, and a church looking to find a way to respond to the needs of the flock. It will hopefully be a way for some to find security in this worship space, that special needs service. The security, of course, is Jesus Christ. For that, like so many other things we do here, from birthday bags to cake mixes to coffee hour, are all ways we can flock together and follow our Good Shepherd. And at the same time, we are being asked to pivot and look out for the lost sheep and help them find the way. In this community, like so many others, we gather around in the proverbial fields, for we are social like sheep. And we are, by our nature, followers, looking to be shepherded by the one whose name and whose voice commands our attention. Amen.